proper governance is needed at all levels. At corporate levels, national levels, so we should have confidence in our politicians and leaders, but also at the world level. Because now we are all interdependent. There is a new type of solidarity. So we have to think of proper global governance that will inspire the people to work together instead of fighting against each other. Well, we do not have global institutions to really deal in a democratic way with the main issues of the world. Fortunately, we have the United Nations that deal with, of course, with peace and wars and their institutions in specific fields. However, populations react because they feel misinformed and they are afraid of some of the problems that are coming from the increased population and increased consumption. So we have to find a new system to take into account their fears and their wishes. Well, they have to inspire confidence, and this is permanent daily action and behavior and promotion of values. And they can do it. I mean, you shouldn't feel that their misbehavior is governing the world. It's not true. In my experience in business for 30, 35 years in large corporations, we didn't misbehave. And I think we try to develop code of behaviors and to have the people and our customers realizing that we are doing things properly. Well, as you know, for the last 40 years, the 15 countries have developed already certain traditions, certain laws, certain experience and many contacts. So now with the enlargement, we are coming to a new phase with new contributions, new ideas, new desires. And my hope is that it's going to be done in the common global interest of Europe rather than to the special nationalistic approach of each country. Because this is the spirit we had when we started Europe, is to say we remain French or German, but together we do something better. And I hope that the incoming members will share this type of approach with us. Well, you know, every action in business should be born under ethical values. The way you pay your salaries, you fix your prices, you have your general policy, you should take care of all your stakeholders in a positive way. So profit is part of this game. And you finally have to get a profit margin to obtain investments and to pay for the investors, but also half of it go into taxes as a contribution to the general interest of the country. And the use of profit you make is part of your general policy, and your general policy should be ethical. So it's an integrated concept that you cannot just split some part and say profit is not ethical, salaries are not ethical. No, it's a whole thing in a balanced way. And you have to explain it and to obtain reactions about your policies in this field as well as in the other field of activities.
I think that in business ethics, as it has been developing since about 20 years now in the United States and in Europe, we have stressed very much the level of the individuals in business and how they should behave, what integrity means, personal integrity in business, leadership, etc. We have stressed very much also the organizational level, the level of culture, the culture of the company, and how to improve it, how to intervene if necessary. But gradually, what becomes clear now is that business being involved in a whole system of various institutions, when you really want to improve the ethical quality of business enterprises, business relations, you have to pay attention also to the institutional level, meaning to what extent institutions do interfere, existing institutions do interfere in business decisions and business possibilities, but also what kind of institutions do we need in order to improve the ethical quality of business. You can think about ethical investment forms, but also public-private relationships between governmental agencies and businesses, a very important institutional form is what is now captured under the heading of corporate governance. How are corporate governance structures, how is corporate governance structured, meaning how are the responsibilities of the various parties in business, of stakeholders, of the board of directors, of the board of advisors, non-executive directors, how is the whole system of accountability, the whole system of transparency reorganized if necessary, institutionally wise, to such an extent that the various positions become more clear, that people and various groups of people are more accountable. So there are many institutions that can be used or that should be rearranged in order to contribute to the ethics in business. I think that business first and foremost will remain business, and the ethics in business will not find its origin first and foremost in business itself, but will find it in the surrounding partners of business, be it NGOs, be it governmental agencies, you name it. What we can expect is that business may increasingly become more sensitive to the demands and the requirements. Don't expect too many initiatives of business itself, because they have other things to take care about, but as long as they remain accessible to the requirements and demands and expectations, then I think that there is a kind of an ethical partnership possible between business and its partners.
Let me first say, a paradox is a puzzle which is formulated in contradictory terms. So, when I look for a paradox in business, I try to find or to define a contradiction. And the contradiction is the following one. Business ethics, we need business ethics as an instrument to temper opportunistic behavior. And we need to temper opportunistic behavior because opportunistic behavior in a context of uncertainty generates distrust. So to create relations of trust, we need business ethics. But now the contradiction comes in. When we use business ethics as a managerial tool to generate more trust, or we, at a superficial level, we temper opportunistic behavior. But often we reinforce opportunistic behavior at a deeper level. The green paper of the European Commission, 2 years ago it was launched. I think it's a very important paper, because now the issue of corporate social responsibility is on the political agenda, and I think that's a progress. But I believe also that the weak point in the paper is that the whole motivational structure behind this introduction of corporate social responsibility is a instrumental type of reasoning. So they see corporate social responsibility mainly as a kind of a managerial tool. And they lost a bit something vital in ethics, namely that ethics has to be always motivated by some intrinsic motivations. I have to be honest, not only because to be seen as honest, but really to be honest, because it's a fundamental value in life. It's part of my identity to be honest. That's intrinsic motivation. By just stressing instrumental reasons for being honest, because it gives me good reputation, It's part of reputation management. We lost something vital in the motivational structure of being ethical. I think the first thing that we have to do if we try to overcome the paradox, the first thing we have to do is to make a clear distinction between ethics as a moral commitment and ethics as a managerial tool. By managerial tool I mean ethics as a technique, a system of codes or a system of monitoring ethical behavior, an audit system. So the first thing to do is to make clear that moral commitment is based on intrinsic motivation. A managerial tool is an instrument. And to overcome the paradox, it's not to say we do not need the instrument, we do need the instrument. But we may not lose the moral commitment by using the instrument. That's the important point. So there must be always a kind of priority of moral commitment over ethics as an instrument. To activate moral commitment, we have to reactivate or to think about the sources of ethics. And I have written a very inspiring book, the book of the French philosopher Bergson, with the title The Two Sources of Ethics. And in that book he explains how we have two sources for ethical behavior. The first one is social pressure. And we need ethics as a system of norms to temper opportunistic behavior. That's the one part. But the other part, he says, we need mysticism as a source of ethics. And by mysticism he means spirituality, and that's the openness for the creation of new values. And I think spirituality is basically the openness for otherness, for new meanings, for the creation of something new. And therefore I think spirituality as the openness for otherness can play the role of an inspiring motivational structure to be more committed from an intrinsic point of view. And I think in entrepreneurship that kind of attitude may be very important.
Intellectual Eichmannism, I understand a way of trying to hide behind the state's law. As a person, you cannot hide behind the external factor, neither the state's law. So that is an attempt to avoid taking responsibility. I feel that Eichmann is a core example of a person that really tried to avoid his personal responsibility by saying that my honor is to follow the law. And while doing this, he did much harmful things that we really cannot forgive him. So it's a very bad excuse. It's a petrified legalism, a very bad thing to have such a relationship to the law, because ethics is always above the law. In business, you have to act upon a kind of contract, you have to act upon some expectations from others. But in the last resort, we have to take a personal responsibility. We cannot act on behalf of a business. So it means that we should always take a personal approach to the different persons, to the different kind of tasks that is at hand. We cannot hide behind a business role. We have to be personal responsibility, I would say. And this has many consequences for how one should really approach the tasks that is at hand. A personal responsibility is much more than a role. As I say, you cannot hide behind a role, neither a number of roles. So a person is always more than any bundle of roles. I think that we could either say that we could, so to speak, express our identity through the roles, the different roles that we occupy. It might be the role as a father or as a manager, but from the same point of view, we should really express our integrity and identity, and not trying to hide behind any organizational or professional role. And being a person and take it personally, I think that means that we are much more aware of what is going around us, that we have always a critical sense and a conscientious, we have an awareness of the consequences that we are really inflicting upon others as people or the environment. So that means that we are taking a much more comprehensive responsibility for our attitudes, our actions in the short and the long run. So it means, in a very short way, a greater self that we should really try to call it realize and to implement also in business, but in all kinds of environment that I am as a person in, we should really try to take a look upon ourselves as a person that are responsible in all respect for all roles that we are occupying. Shallow in an organizational context means to call it take an organizational responsibility, to have a responsibility call it one role. That would be a very shallow attitude towards responsibility. I would rather say that deep is what I call a personal responsibility. It is something much deeper, and if I take I can say that a shallow responsibility might be in practice having an opportunistic attitude towards different kind of things, towards tasks. But to be have a deep sense of responsibility means in a real way to be ethical, and in this way it means to be genuinely human being, to have a feeling, a connectedness towards other people and towards nature, seeing myself not as a separated being, but really part of a much greater self, part of environment, and seeing that if I am harming nature, I am harming myself. So the deep point of view, really taking the perspective with me as part of a much greater whole.
I think that in contemporary business practice, a lot of companies and organizations just use ethics and ethics tools, business ethics tools, as a simple means to add some values to the company. So they take a very opportunistic approach to ethics and business ethics. It is very problematic even from a non-ethical point of view, because it's a real life thing, but also it is true from a theoretical perspective that if you take an ethical action just on an opportunistic basis, you will fail almost certainly in real life context. Why an opportunistic behavior, opportunistic use of ethics tool or ethical behavior is producing a wrong, bad results, just because the partners of a company or stakeholders of the company, they can recognize, and usually they recognize easily, that this is something just lying or cheating. And if your motivation is not genuinely ethical, others may arrive at a conclusion that you are just lying or cheating, and you will be penalized by your partners. So in this sense, no ethics is better or might be better than an opportunistic use of ethics, because if you do not display anything about your morality or ethics, others may form their own conception about you. But if you definitely say that I am going for ethics policy or this ethical behavior, and this is not the case, it is much worse than if you do not say anything about your motivation. It's a very bad thing. It's a wrong direction to introduce monetary incentives for influencing people's behavior, managers' behavior in a more ethical way. If you introduce money and monetary rewards for ethical behavior, you will corrupt the behavior of people, the behavior of managers. This is quite clear, even in economics. So Bruno Frey at the University of Zurich was able to demonstrate experimentally that monetary incentives under certain conditions destroy intrinsic motivation of, for example, of employees or managers, and these monetary incentives, via destroying or decreasing intrinsic motivation, finally will lead to declined quality of goods and services. So this is clear in economics, and it is even it is wronger even in ethics. So ethics is not about rewards. Ethics is certainly not about monetary rewards. So monetary incentives may play a very important role in business and in social life, but not certainly as a means to fostering ethical behavior. I think that ethics is very similar to love, because in ethics, just like in love, only those who are able to love their partners in and for themselves will get all the blessings of a loving ethical relationships. So if you want to achieve a real high quality ethical results, you should do ethics for its own sake.